Bruce spent decades rising to the very top of a technical profession most people never think about until payday goes wrong. He became Payroll Man of the Year, led the National Association, and now he's figuring out what identity, purpose, and reinvention look like after a long run at the top. Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Bill. Pleasure to be here this morning and looking forward to a lively conversation.
I'm sure it will be. You are always fun to listen to, and you and I have spent a lot of time on air together, believe it or not. If you could, when we were just kind of touching on it, can you give us a little bit about where Bruce Phipps comes from?
Sure. I was born and raised in Norristown, Pennsylvania, grew up a little outside of Norristown in a town called Trooper, which is quite unique because when my father was driving, he would get stopped by a cop and his license said Trooper and they thought he was law enforcement, but unfortunately not. The town was just called Trooper, little town outside of Norristown, and I have lived in Eastern PA my entire life. Grew up in Trooper, moved to Harleysville, which is about 10 miles from there, and now I live in a little village called Tylersport, which is relatively small and was small when I moved here in '97. All the farmers unfortunately have since sold their ground and they're building homes and townhouses, but it used to be country. It still is. But so that's where I live, and it's great. My wife and I have a nice property out here, and I've been working from home since 2014, so I don't really know what it's like to be in an office setting anymore. So it's quite comfortable, and I'm a little dressed up today. I actually put a shirt on.
Wow.
As opposed to a t-shirt.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a little bit about me.
Bruce, you were telling us about Trooper and where you grew up. And I am curious, since that was your story of you carried on the tradition of your father, first off, of getting stopped. But also, did the name Trooper ever cause him to get a break?
Unfortunately not. I recall as a kid, we used to go to Florida every summer, and inevitably somewhere along 301 before 95 was built, inevitably he would get stopped, and it was just a common occurrence, but it's something that stuck with me throughout my entire life. Dad was a big Ford guy. Always had the Ford LTD Country Squire, with the wood grain paneling on the side. So, and I always sat all the way in the way back, as I called it, and he put a speaker back there for the radio, and I would sit back there and play games, and he and Mom were sitting in the front seat, just, pounding the miles out to get to Florida every summer.
Well, that reminds me of my son's Clayton, who's a college junior. His favorite movie still to this day is Cars. And that reminds me of that movie. And also all those little towns, that's how they made their revenue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, as well as I do, Brian, and Bill, you may know too, and Burke, but south of the border was like, was like
250 miles to south of the border.
Yep. Used to see the signs along 309 or 301 and 95. Now it's just all 95. But yeah, that was the halfway mark between our house and St. Petersburg, Florida, every summer. So yeah, it's a lot of good memories as a child.
That's awesome.
It's so funny, Bruce. I have 3 boys, and they're all adults now. But we used to drive. I grew up in Connecticut, and we would drive to Florida. We would drive to Ohio to visit family. And I just remember Pennsylvania was like the eternally longest state on the planet, and of course this was always in a a Pontiac Catalina with wood or fake wood or whatever, and
Mhm.
no air conditioning, and a back seat where my sister might get car sick or I might or whatever. But it was just, you're basically on your own. And my kids, ever since they were little, had videos in the car or had some kind of pad, to be working on or whatever. And I was like, you don't know boring until you've done that.
Yeah,
So,
well,
Most of the time, you couldn't even keep a radio station.
yeah,
yeah, you couldn't. And, when I was a kid, which was a lot of years ago, it was a coloring book and crayons. There were no electronic devices back when I was a kid. So
yeah.
kind of dating myself, unfortunately, but
Well,
that was the realization back then.
we're right there with you, I think.
Well,
Yeah, from the
Burke,
dating.
Burke is the youngest of all of us. He had all the electric conveniences.
He did.
Had none. The youngest is not by a far margin, Bruce.
Okay.
But I am
He's
still
a-
in my 50s. I don't know about you.
He's a baby.
Oh
So
God, you are a baby. Good Lord.
Bruce is not in his 50s.
No,
Are you over 60, Bruce?
I am 69.
Wow, you look good.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Only my hairdresser knows for sure.
That's why I cut mine off so nobody can see the gray. Now I am officially now not the oldest one on the podcast, which I normally am. So thank you for that, Bruce.
No worries at all. No worries at all. But yes, I get Burke. I get that. A lot of people say, "Oh, you must be, late 50s, early 60s," and they're quite shocked when I tell them that I am 69. It just,
With
and
pride.
well, and I think we
Yeah.
all can agree it's just a matter of how you feel, and I don't feel 69. So age to me is just a number anymore, really. I mean, so